So good to see you here.
So good to be with you. Yes.
And I think that one of the most important things I'd like to start with is that your experience growing up in America, going to Harvard, going to Goldman Sachs.
Morgan-Stanley.
Morgan-Stanley, okay.
Not much difference, but
yeah, you were growing up in America, going to Harvard, going to Morgan-Stanley, going to the UN. That opened your eyes to what?
It actually opened, those experiences opened my eyes to two things. One is this sense that almost a mythology, we're told that we can change the existing system. We should go there, get to the highest levels. It's not a matter of it's just a matter of getting the right people in the right places, and the whole system will turn around, and it can be used for the benefit of good people, good and good humanity. And then realizing there are much deeper system dynamics happening, the design of the game, the way things are all interconnected. That is what started to become very apparent to me, that it wasn't just a few bad apples there. It's actually a whole design.
A whole design and a whole system
that is actually working in place. And that system has so many different layers that one, it's promoting itself as the ultimate system, the best system, the TINA system. And then it's also discrediting thousands of systems that exist and are probably more compassionate, more sustainable, more loving, more equitable than this system. So it's kind of blinding us to many other possibilities at the same time. So I think going there and seeing that, I actually, the feeling was very deep depression first, seeing this, because so many people are banking on these experts to do the right thing for, and then that letdown that they're not actually even, and the other thing is, like, very nice people there.
Yeah.
They're not like these evil, like, they're very nice, sweet, intelligent people who really care, but then are driven by a different logic.
And they believe they're going to end poverty. They believe they're going to eradicate environmental problems, so-called, while actually making things worse, widening the gap between rich and poor.
No, and like, I remember the weirdest thing. When we were bankers, we're told you are the masters of the universe.
Yeah.
It's pumped up, and without you, the whole thing will collapse. The world will break down, everything, and so you're almost in this. Even the morality of it, you're said, no, you are the upkeepers of life, where you're actually destroying everything.
Yeah.
But you're told that without you, people will die. So
it creates
very perverse.
And you decided to go and learn where?
So I was very disillusioned, and age 28, I'd gone to all these places thinking I'm gonna go there and change, and then I started understanding there's at both philosophical and a design level, there are many flaws in this whole way of thinking, and so I thought, how do I start to heal myself? And I say I basically spent the first quarter of my life trying to be more white, more successful than even the white man. And then I realized that even the white man is suffering in the system very badly. So let me try to go and find a different logic. And so it was my grandmother who I went back to, and
your illiterate
village grandmother.
Yeah.
Her name was Gia, and I went back to her, and I thought that actually I would be caring and taking care of her. And I realized that my wife and I realized we were actually in our grandmother's university for 10 years, and she helped us unlearn many of the things, like particularly the hyper-individualism, all of our notions around that we thought we were free and independent from us, and we were progressive and liberal, and all of those things, modern. She helped us dismantle many of those notions and start to plug into many other realities and things. And And even small things, like um, I'm told that, there's a lot of different kinds of oppression against women in India and many other places. But to see that there's a tremendous amount of power there also. And so I was trained only to see the oppression. I could not see the power that they have, the food, like, that women, for example, were like the plugged into the local economy. There were so much, the food systems were in their hands, the seeds were in their hands, and so all of these other forms of power that women had, we were made invisible. So a lot of feminist friends like, oh, this oppression. I'm like, just tell me three powerful things about those women and those communities. They're blank. So it just shows you how brainwashed we are. And so she helped me like enter into those worlds, where I was able to see then that we can actually indigenous knowledge, wisdom, and things are not superstitious, are not backwards like we're told, but actually are, in your book, Ancient Futures, that these are actually the seeds of a different kind of consciousness of how we can rebuild our systems or create new systems and live with a different harmony.
And I'd say fundamental to that, is that in more small scale, in other words, human scale, systems, and let's call it cultures, adapted to the living world. When they're adapted to the living world, they're going to be different and they're going to be smaller scale.
Definitely.
And they inherently give more power to women. There are so many reasons for that. It's partly because they function very well with oral communication, which universally women are better at, even as little girls. And so there are so many ways in which we now have to look at that whole system and see, does it allow for that real power of the feminine, of women? What does it do to child rearing? And of course, as you were saying, the important role in agriculture that women played throughout history until modern techno for profit agriculture. Maybe you can say more about that, what you've seen in
No, I think also, just to add to that, the whole UN thing, focus on the girl child. So I used to think that, oh wow, they really care. But actually, the girl child and women are the last bastion to the local economy, local culture, a different way out of this global mess. And that's why they want to focus on them and destroy all of them, like make young women hate food, hate farming, hate anything to do with the kitchen, hate anything to do with the family, anything to do with the community, like disconnect them from all of that. And then it's game over, right? So
and that again, very specifically and clearly, is about this educating women.
Yes.
Meaning training them into a fossil fuel based, urbanizing, competitive economy, which means they're also being trained to suit the needs of those corporations.
Yeah. And so, that's the invitation to so many feminist friends, is like, without fundamentally rethinking education and economy, the feminist movement is a slave to the global corporations.
Yeah. And can you say more about your work in helping people, and now really large numbers of people in India, question the dominant education for girls, but for everyone, and helping them on a journey of unlearning and thinking about livelihoods instead of
livelihoods.
livelihoods instead of deadlihoods, as you call it.
Yeah. So I think we've discussed this, and that schooling might be one of the most greatest crimes against humanity, right? And this labeling innocent children as failures, as stupid, labeling their ancestors, their elders as uneducated, ignorant, right? And this is like I don't understand people in social justice movements, how they don't see that this is happening all the time. And so and then feeding them with basically one of the things school is very good is to make us hate ourselves. because that serves the economy so well. When we think we're not smart enough, not beautiful enough, we don't know how to make friends anymore, right? And we're always anxious and in competitive mode. So that really feeds that. And then the second thing is really feeding us into this techno utopian worldview that everything is about. The whole march of progress has to be towards more and more and more technology that are controlled by forms of technology controlled by global corporations and things. And that's just the natural way that it has to be, right? And anyone who questions that is, again, anti-progress, anti-development, anti
Conservative, fascist, what else? Sort
exactly.
of.
So those are the two things that the system really keeps in place, which serves then the larger global economy. So I think the one thing is that we are fundamentally trying to do with a lot of young people is to tell them you're not stupid. You're not ignorant. You have so many gifts and talents, and even the people successful. I used to feel bad for the so-called losers.
Yeah.
I'm like, the winners are even worse.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
where you beat them, you lose everything. I'm like, I went to Harvard, I lost everything who I am because you're always trying to please and you're always competing and you're always anxious about who's rising up the corporate ladder. You can never be relaxed with,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
anything. You can't
yeah.
be in healthy relationships.
We have to remember that in the industrialized world, they've been so enclosed and so urbanized that they've ended up caught up within the urban techno environment and seeing that poorer people who have less good education are often poorer and worse off. So they don't have the baseline of people that have benefited from knowledge about the land, that have benefited from multi generational communities. So it's much harder to see it, much harder to
Yeah.
see the destructive impact of schooling.
I understand, but I think it's not so hard to see if you want to see it too.
You think?
It's like it's purposely ignored because it's much easier to hold this liberal myth that we will give everyone a fair chance in the system. The market economy is so fair. You just need to work hard and you'll get your chance. Study hard and you can get you'll make it in the system and you can get out of your poverty and misery and all of that. That I would say that guilt is so strong because people are not able to deal with the vast inequities even in the industrial world.
Yeah,
Even greater forms of inequity exist
yeah,
there. And so you have to give this illusion, okay, we're giving you a chance at least in the
yeah,
government school. So I think that it's when if one steps a little bit out of it, you
yeah,
can start to see that it's a sham. And like I've
yeah.
met so many, I'm like, how many really from these urban, industrial, poor, low income communities, how many people really have you helped to get out? How many communities have really shifted? Or in the last 30, 40 years, they've even gone to become more violent, more unsafe, uh, more desperate, more
Impoverished. Yeah,
drugs, everything,
yeah,
Like maybe 50 years ago, those communities, or at least people were growing some food of their own. They were, they had much healthier social bonds, but most of these places, like there's a project Teach for America,
yeah,
and they're like do young liberal students. I mean, we're gonna save the slums and all these low income neighborhoods, and what they end up doing is padding their resumes to go later on. But those communities have all deteriorated in the last 50 years. So
yeah.
so I mean, one can actually hold on to the mythology, or you can actually look at what the ground reality is, which is not. And
Also,
the good
yeah,
thing is, wherever I'm traveling in the global south,
yeah.
like favelas or busties in India, people are realizing this. They're realizing that we've been duped. We were promised this, but it's not really happening, and we can never really win in this game.
And so now they're starting to create their own game,
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
that means building up local relationships, local knowledge. Can you talk about that and
Yeah.
take it to
So we
localization?
are trying to create these platforms. We're calling them ecoversities.
Yeah,
So the way that the system keeps functioning is that it one has captured the moral space and the second has captured the knowledge space,
yeah,
and saying that we're superior knowledge systems and we bring a higher level morality, so we are the better system. And so, what if you first strip away the morality, saying your system is not any more moral, it's actually, and then you say, we have knowledge, we have wisdom, we know how to do things on the ground. We are solving. I went to one favela, and I'm like, that university is fake. You're solving your own problems. You have a water problem. You're figuring out how to solve it. Your people. There was one of my friends. He lived on one of the most violent streets in the world. I'm like, the university people didn't know how to solve it. You guys figured it all in your community how to shift things. So you have your own knowledge systems and you're figuring out and you're creating solutions that are not only for your community but can actually be used, replicated, and shared with many other people around the world. So this is the real university, right?
Yeah.
And that little shift in narrative
raise the status,
opens everything. And I'm like, and you are the faculty.
Yes.
Like your grandmother is a faculty, or this fisherman, he knows much more about the river and the ocean and everything, and and or this farmer, he has so much, or she has so much knowledge about the soil and how to regenerate. And that is like, because we know this is all existing.
Yeah.
But it's been so suppressed by the existing system that if you can just open it up, it's magical. I really find it so. Even telling jail inmates, you can have your own university. Your life isn't totally screwed. You can actually think and create a different kind of community relationships. We have inmates who are leading the organic farming movement in Rajasthan.
Really?
Yes, they're like amazing. So.
Well, see, that also to me, what gives me so much hope is that I see that most of the work going forward is precisely this reframing. And reframing could happen very quickly. Like you say, just making people aware of the fact that they have so much to be proud of, that they have so many skills that are being suppressed and ignored. It is like a magic. It really is. And this is also why we need to keep collaborating to find ways of making that bigger picture available for the empowerment, literally, of people worldwide. You were touching on the fact that people have gone up the ladder further, those who studied at Harvard, who go in as CEOs in the big companies, are often more depressed, more damaged than people at the bottom. What happens step by step is that you have less of a sense of belonging, you have less community, and that means you become more and more lonely, you become more and more stressed and dehumanized. So we're offering people a way forward that benefits everybody.
Yeah.
Seriously. And and it's about reframing. It's about how do we get this out.
This is, fundamental, like, what is real wealth?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important conversations. And then people to realize, we have somebody who's, calling us and checking up, and I don't have to pay that money to listen to my problems. I can share openly with people, or, I have fresh air I'm breathing, or whatever those forms of wealth are. We need to kind of expand that. And so people start to realize that, again, that we have much more things to build with. And then I think the other thing is really this. So it's a delicate line, right, in this Ecoversity. So it shouldn't be interpreted as anti-intellectualism, but I think we need to expand the meaning of intellectualism. So like working with your hands, or connecting to the ancestors. These are also part of a much more holistic intellectual approach.
Well, see, I think the key word there is holistic, and that relates back also to our friend Ian McGilchrist, the emphasis on left and right brain, the balance. And so what we're talking about is this overuse of the left brain, and we're talking about, if you like, a type of intellectual analysis that is suppressing wisdom. And wisdom, the best way I think to talk about that is through, as you said, emphasizing the holistic, emphasizing the embodied experiential knowledge, emphasizing, even as you say, the intelligence of the hands and the whole
love.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm so surprised. Simple thing of touch.
Yeah.
How people are so afraid of that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most powerful technologies
Yeah.
we have,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
and now and the digitization is taking us even more and more
Yeah.
away from that. But
Yeah.
that has such power to give to heal and to open up so many things for people.
And also, you know, the touch again, to come back to why we have used the local as such a central framing. It's only one of the terms we need to use, but we need to be talking about that face to face, touching, building of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and how fundamental it is too that we're relating to that living animal, that living bit of soil, that tree, that
Mm-hmm.
water, as well as the people around us.
Absolutely.
And there's a fear, particularly in the West now, against embracing that. There is this fear that it's somehow retreating into a past that is identified as right wing. And I'm certainly in the West, many people who identify themselves on the left are, first of all, you know, I have such faith in international collaboration, in international solidarity, that they get confused and they've been to a great extent brainwashed by corporate interests who have made it seem as though economic globalization is about solidarity and collaboration when it's actually about allowing a few corporations to go in and dominate economic activity. And we're, of course, in a daily work, constantly building up international relationship, international collaboration. But we understand that we need to rebuild those fundamental building blocks of human community.
Mm-hmm.
The one where we can touch, where we can support each other when there's illness, we can support each other when there's trauma.
One of the things also is you mentioned it was so we're differentiating between deadlyhoods
Yeah.
and livelihoods.
Yeah.
So the invitation is to see that most of what we've been taught and most of the careers we've been prepared for are actually deadlyhoods. They're supporting this global extractivist economy. They're supporting people to hate themselves. They're financing this economy. They're protecting this economy as lawyers. And even as UN people, they're like just there to mop up a little bit, pretend they can mop up the mess of this economy, right?
Yeah.
But
And keep the system
the
going.
system running, right? So the SDGs themselves are just like little, little wound, but not looking at the root causes of this and they're pretending like they can fix it.
Yeah.
So I think the invitation is to actually. So lots of young people are wondering what to do in the world. So one is to see that first thing is to do is say no to that. And then the second thing is to say that we can actually create new kinds of work. The world needs new kinds of work, which is making, again, our own spirits come alive. We don't have to like think of our work as this drudgery and, oh my God, I don't want to go to work. But there's actually as Gandhi used to say, work is worship. So it can be and re-merging our spiritual and our work. So these aren't like your spirituality isn't something you go and do in an hour yoga class or you do something outside and your work is different. But how do we reintegrate these? And then how do we also really think about how community building? One of the key aspects of that is shifting power again from global corporations back into communities. So this has to be part of the work. And then another part is like, how does that work regenerate wealth again, real wealth? Our local food systems, our local trust networks, our healing systems, our own local culture, our own, our water systems, all of these things. That this is actually, and if I think if we start, my own experiences, if people start to feel that, they are able to make very different decisions for themselves, for their children, for their futures, because they feel that okay, we are not depleted and underdeveloped as we're being told all the time, but we actually have the real things to build a different kind of community and system for. And then the fourth thing is, and that which we're talking a lot about, is the shift our own understanding of who we are. Who are we fundamentally? Why have we come to this earth? How are we? Like, I love to say one of our sayings in Swaraj University: we haven't come to this earth to compete against each other. We've come to complete each other, and that sets a whole different way of how we can relate not only with human beings but all of the other beings that are on the planet. And so if we can shift that narrative, that it's not this like musical chairs, and we've discussed this before, musical chairs being one of the most insidious, pernicious games you can play with children, telling them there's only one chair and you have to fight for that. But we can actually shift that to see that our purpose of being on this earth and our ways to connect is much different than what the global economy is telling us. So this is the kind of work we need to be doing in the world. And young people are so excited when they actually see this possibility. Good. That's always wonderful.